If you're tired of second guessing yourself and feeling trapped in a life that is not a reflection of who you feel like you really are on the inside, keep listening. Welcome to Follow the Calling.
Be confident in knowing how to get the results you want.
Be secure in knowing who you really are.
Be inspired by the possibility of the difference you're here to make.
Follow your calling and experience true fulfillment.
So welcome everybody to another episode of Follow the Calling. And today we're exploring why it's so important to build a trusting relationship with yourself and where to start with that so that you can finally stop second guessing your every move. Stop agonizing over making the right or wrong decision and commit to following your heart's calling. And, you know, to talk into a little bit about where this all begins, you know, I think that for me, in my past, at least, it's been that I found myself in this place of constant indecision and doubt. You know, if I found myself in a position where I'm not happy and I'm not sure what to do about it. I'm not sure what I want. I'm not sure if the ideas that I have are going to work. Will I be judged? All these things coming into my head. There's all these questions we ask ourselves, isn't there, Tiff?
Oh, yes. And the pros cons lists
yeah.
and the sleepless nights of back and forth. Do I say yes or do I not? Like, do I take this course? Do I invest that money?
Yeah.
Or do I not? Or is it just another one of those things that I'm not going to finish?
Yeah, right.
Or just another one of those things that isn't going to be what I thought it was going to be. And I'm just going to be out the money and still find myself in the very same place that had me looking for something in the first place.
Right. And also it's like,
yes.
You can take it into more everyday situations in our life. Like, should I say this to this person? I feel like this isn't working for me and I want to say something to them. Should I really say something or should I not? Maybe it'll upset them. What will people think? Will it cause a problem?
Right.
Will it work? Will it cause me further problems down the line? And this is what you're saying, isn't it, about the pros and cons list?
Yeah.
We start making lists of reasons why we should and reasons why we shouldn't. But the problem with that isn't it? It's quite cynical, isn't it? Because what we're doing is we're basing our future off of what we already know. You know, because all of the things we already know are going to be pros and all the things we already know might be cons. And even then, all of those things are only might be's. And what that does is it cuts us off from all possibility. Because what about all the outcomes that we've got no idea where something could lead? How something could be so much better than we ever imagined?
Yeah.
You know, we really cut ourselves off from possibility by doing such things, don't we? So
yeah.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is, and I feel like a lot of people say this, like, I just want to live my purpose. Like, I just want to fulfill my purpose. It's a better word.
Yeah.
I just want to fulfill my purpose.
Yeah.
Or they are very aware that they're not doing everything that they're capable of. They're not living to their highest potential.
Yeah.
And so they're worried about continuing to live a life that does not have them living to their highest potential. It's the only way that they could even be aware, right? Or even have the fear that they're not doing that is if they know they're not.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember like a time in my life about 10 years ago that this was at its height for me. And, you know, I was just so aware that everything around me was not working and I could be doing so much better. I was capable of so much more. The job I was in, I felt underappreciated, underutilized. It wasn't even what I wanted to do. I wasn't being the best father to my kids that I could have been. I wasn't doing as much of the things that I loved that I could have been. In fact, I was barely doing the things I loved at all because I was working so much in this job that I hated. And all the while I was aware of this dissatisfaction, I felt really, really stuck with knowing, well, what to do about it. It's like I knew it wasn't working, but I just didn't know what. It was like I felt like a bit of an idiot, really, if I'm honest. I felt really stupid because I was like, I just felt like I was continuously moaning about this dissatisfaction in my life, that all these things weren't right, but I didn't have any answers. So I just became that person who was just moaning and not happy about their life, right? And that's never good.
Right. So when we're living continuously from a place of indecision and doubt, constantly going back and forth and never just being able to make a decision and make it right.
Yeah.
Right.
Just go with
when we know.
Yeah.
Right. When we know that we're not living to our highest potential, that we're not, that we are being underutilized and underappreciated in our jobs, where does that leave us?
That leaves us in a place of basically leaving ourselves open to regret. Because, you know, the thing is, isn't it? Regret is something that only occurs when you don't take action. Like sometimes people can say that they regret doing something, but that's not actually true, because even if you've made a mistake and you've taken a move that didn't end up how you would have liked, the point is you've learned something from that. But by not taking action, nobody gets anything from it. Everyone is deprived from all manner of learning. And so the only things that you regret are the things you don't do. You never regret the things you do, only the things you don't do. And by not taking action on that, knowing that you're not being utilized to your full potential, that you're not living your life's purpose, leads you to a life of regret. And that for me, in the situation I was telling you about, I was so aware of that. And it was terrifying me. The thing it was really keeping me up at night was the realization that, well, you know, I saw the film Fight Club as well, you know, and it was like my life is ending a second at a time. And what am I doing about it? Nothing. And all the while I was like, well, what do I do about it? And that terrified me to know that my life was being wasted away and I was doing nothing about it. And I was just sat there unhappy, like, not doing anything. It was terrifying to me.
Right. And I think it's really relevant to say here, although I'm sure that everybody has heard this in a million places, right? But when people are lying on their deathbed, what is it that they say?
I don't know. Tell me. I've not been there yet.
Well, they never regret the things that they did in their life. They never regret the things that they did in their life. What they regret are the things that they didn't do.
Right.
The chances that they didn't take, the risks that they didn't take.
I remember actually seeing some research on this, funnily enough. I'm just remembering now. And the number one regret of people who are literally on their deathbed, about to pass, is that they worked too much. They worked too much and they never spent enough time with their family and doing the things they love. And I just like, imagine that. Imagine reaching that point in your life and feeling that way about your life. It's like, absolutely. Jesus Christ. It's like, can you imagine thinking, whoa, what was it all for? I worked my ass into the ground for somebody else just so that I could regret that on my deathbed and wish that I'd spent more time with my family, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, that must be, I mean, that's exactly where I was headed. I know for sure.
So the reason that this happens for us, the reason that we find ourselves in these places of indecision and, you know, being worried about not living to our fullest potential or fulfilling on our purpose and potentially, you know, dying and being regretful that we spent so much time working is because of the fear of the unknown, which has so many like other implications. We could break this down even more, right? But why is it that we go back and forth so much? Why is it that we can't just choose and make it right for ourselves? And we just find ourselves continuously stuck in the same unfulfilling job, in the same unfulfilling relationship, or whatever that looks like for you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
and
go ahead.
So essentially, like you're saying, you're talking about it being the fear of the unknown, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, what is the unknown? Because when there is an unknown, when we don't know what the outcome of anything is going to be, our mind tends to fill that space with an answer, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Our mind tends to come up with all sorts of catastrophic outcomes that suggest that maybe we shouldn't do that because something might happen. So
something bad might happen.
something
Right.
bad, basically, yeah, because we would never be, oh, something good might happen. It's like, yeah, well, you might do that, right? But
Right.
why isn't that just as true? Why isn't it just as true that something good might happen, right?
Right.
But the thing is to know that because of all of those catastrophic thoughts come up, we start becoming terrified of things, of imaginary ideas like being judged, or maybe we will be judged, but we imagine what it's going to be like to be judged.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe we're scared of failing. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, well, hang on a minute, what even is this idea of failing anyway, right? Because really, if we're here, we are playing the game of life. Really, the only what is the definition of success to begin with? So success is basically that you don't die, that you continue living, right? In the game of life, in the grand scheme of things,
Yes.
the definition of success,
You survived.
you survived, you kept living. Nobody died, you didn't die. And so therefore, the idea of failure is a bit of a fallacy, because certainly the idea that it's possible to succeed without failing is a fallacy.
Mm-hmm.
Because what is failure if nothing else but a lesson that we get to learn and then carry forward into our next action, right?
And again, it's something that people talk about a lot. But if you could imagine that, I think we can all imagine, right? Babies, when they're learning to walk, like they fail over and 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 over again before they finally get it right. And imagine if they tried to walk for the first time and then they just gave up. Then there's like, I just failed. Yeah. And end of the story, right? I'm just gonna crawl for the rest of my life.
Right. And so they just go into a state of comparing themselves to all the other able-bodied adults around and saying, right, oh, I'm clearly not good enough. It's like, but a child doesn't do that. The child is a sponge of learning and development for the very
play and exploring, right? That's how they approach life. It's just about play and exploring and testing their boundaries and does this work? And do they fall sometimes and hurt themselves? Yes, they do.
And what will happen? What will happen if I do this? What will happen if I press this button?
Yes,
what will happen if I pull this thing out of the drawer? Like, and it's like, but it's just the excitement of the exploration. Yeah,
the
sometimes
excitement of the unknown.
Excitement.
They're like, what's going to happen?
Absolutely, yeah. But and they live in a space of potential possibility, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
Kids,
yes. Which is why when they walk for the first time, when they try to walk for the first time and they fall down, they don't give up, because it's about the adventure. It's about exploring the unknown and the possibilities for them. And I love that came up. That totally wasn't planned, but I love that came up in this conversation.
Oh yeah, beautiful. Really good example. Because the thing is as well, the kids, they haven't developed any fear of failure or rejection. That's just a concept. They're two concepts that are unknown to them, aren't they? But look at how they develop, because they're able to operate independent of those abstract concepts of rejection and failure.
And the other thing is that other people would never reject a baby because they tried to walk for the first time and fell down. Right. So the only reason I'm bringing that up is maybe for anybody who's listening to consider where they've maybe rejected somebody or even themselves. Right.
Oh yeah, we do it all the time. All of us, human beings, we do it ourselves. Yeah.
For somebody having the courage to play and explore something for themselves.
Oh, it's an admirable quality, isn't it? It really
Yes.
is, especially once you become an adult, to be able to harness the power of play and exploration and
Mm.
curiosity. It's like those are powerful traits to be able to, embrace, I think.
Yes.
One of the other things as well that I think that the reasons why this happens, this indecision and doubt that stops us taking action and leading to a life of regret. One of the other reasons I think that what happens is we have impulses, we have ideas that pop into our head that kind of often can seem so disconnected from any kind of logical reason of what's going on in our
Mhm.
circumstance. And because they don't seem to fit into our logic and reasoning of our understanding of why that's showing up, our mind just automatically discounts that information,
Mhm.
you know? And
Or even what feels responsible. Like, I feel like that was always a big one for me too. It's like, okay, well, first of all, is this logical? And then secondly, is it a responsible thing for me to do?
yeah. Because the thing, we don't want to be judged for being reckless, right?
Right. You don't want to be one of those people.
Yeah. The
You
other
know?
thing is as well there, we're like, well, what if it goes wrong? I won't be able to explain myself. If I've
Mhm.
taken this action that I can't explain, if I just acted on this impulse
Mhm.
that came to me and it felt expansive and I just acted on it, what if it goes wrong? I won't be able to explain myself to anybody.
Mhm.
How cynical that we
Yeah.
do that to ourselves, that we cut ourselves off from possibility because of what if this goes wrong, you know?
Right. So the thing is that I think for a lot of people, and I think this is really true for me too, that we all know about the voices in our heads. There's
Yeah.
often more than one of them in there, right?
Well, there's a whole
And
crowd.
right, and so we do have these impulses, these thoughts that come up, or these ideas that come up, or um, but we're so good, we get so good, we practice,
Mm,
right? That's the key right there, is to recognize that we're practicing
mm,
discounting, minimizing, ignoring these things to the
right.
point where it maybe is possible that you feel like you don't have these voices at all.
Mm. The voices that are suggesting something positive.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Something seemingly illogical,
Yeah.
something seemingly irresponsible, something that is connected to you that you just feel pulled to follow through with.
Mm,
And so that's a possibility too. And what I want to just point out here is that it is important for everybody to recognize that wherever you see yourself on that spectrum, that they show up occasionally, or that you don't really hear them at all,
mm.
that it's because it's a practiced thing.
Yeah. It's a muscle
So
that needs to be developed, isn't it?
yes, so the same is true, and what we're really talking about here is the need to build a trusting relationship with yourself. And I really, really want to emphasize the word trust,
Hmm.
because again, these impulses, these thoughts, these ideas that we're talking about
Mm.
often seem illogical or irresponsible. And it's why you need to have a trusting relationship, right?
Yeah.
And it's why this is a huge, I mean, and I would say really one of the main pieces of what the Polaris game supports is helping people to build that trust muscle
Hmm.
within themselves.
Got ya. Yeah. Do you know, just before we move on and speak a little bit more about that,
Yeah.
I just want to give a little bit of an example of something that happened today to
Yes.
me, that had me ignoring my impulses and had me buying into logic and reason and cutting myself off from possibility, right? I was doing some research online earlier within some Facebook groups, and for some reason, somebody I know vaguely, I know in a very kind of, I know through other people in certain online communities, popped up at the top, and I was like, why are they here? It doesn't seem right that they're popped up here in this Facebook group. And they're not a member of this. I was like, all of a sudden, I had this sort of urge. I was like, I don't know why, but I've just got this sense that I should message them. I was
Mhm.
like, I don't know why I'm feeling that. Why would I message this guy, Nick? Right? This guy, Nick's popping up there and for no reason. And I'm having this unexplained urge to just message him. And I'm like, Why would I message him? I don't even know what I would say.
Right.
So what I did was I was like, well, okay, that feels like a distraction, and I continued with my research. But in chatting with you about this just before jumping on to record this podcast episode, I was saying to you, wasn't I? I said, you know what? I said, I'm very aware there that I ignored an impulse. And what I'm actually going to do is I'm committing to, straight after recording this podcast, I'm committing to messaging Nick and saying to him, because we barely know each other, right? It's kind of strange, but I'm going to message him and just say, hi, Nick. If I'm honest, I don't really know why I'm messaging you, but I saw you pop up today and I just felt, for some unexplained reason, felt pulled to message you. So here I am messaging you. How are you doing? Right? They're the words I'm going to say to him, and let's see what happens. And maybe nothing will happen. But the point is, I'll never know unless I do it, will I? And you know what?
That's right.
Nobody's going to die.
That's right. And something amazing could happen. This could be one of those surprise parties.
Why?
Sometimes they are, and sometimes they're not. But you just never know why you feel pulled to make a certain decision or make a certain connection. Totally. You just don't know, and you have to follow through with that because, like you said, nobody's going to die. Yeah. So,
but the thing with that, things pop up for a reason. Right? Yes. Like they pop up and occur as being pulled to do it for a reason, because there's something on the other side of that that's unknown. This is why you're talking about the surprise party, right? Right.
And the other thing is that even after you do it, if nothing happens immediately, doesn't mean that nothing's going to happen.
Yeah, totally. Or maybe something else will happen because you did that. You weren't doing something else. It stops something.
Oh my gosh, there's so many things.
Right?
There's so many things. We could go on about the possibilities of why this is showing up, but the important thing is to follow through with the impulse. And then this is the other thing that we were talking about just before, because you were talking about the importance of following through in the moment. Yeah. And while I think there is power to following through in the moment, I think that it's more important to follow through. Yeah. So even though you didn't follow through in the moment, it's more important for you after we're done with this podcast to go ahead and follow through. Yeah. Rather than to just leave that.
Yeah, I totally get that. I see that as a commitment to myself in building trust with myself. And I'm like, it doesn't have to go anywhere. Because the point is, I realized that as soon as I commit to doing it, I've let go of any attachment to the outcome. And so now it's all about just taking the action because, well, there is no because. It's just about taking action because I'm taking the action.
Because you had the impulse to take the action.
Yeah, I'm doing it because I'm doing it. I don't need to justify it. Right. I'm just doing it because I'm doing it. And there we are. And I'll tell you what, as we follow up on the Guardians Lounge in a couple of days' time in the Follow the Calling Facebook community, I'll update you to let you know how that went.
Yeah, that's going to be great. So there's a really good reason for all of you to tune in to the Guardians Lounge and join the Facebook community. So I want to share an example, and I had a different one written down here, but I feel pulled to share different than what I intended. And this really was a surprise party. So it wasn't long after I decided to leave my nursing career and just fully commit myself to following my calling, which at the time I thought was like something around coaching. Didn't know exactly what that was, didn't know exactly what things were going to look like, but I just knew that I've known for a long time that nursing was not my thing. And I finally had the courage to just let it go. And I've shared many times on here, it felt like the most irresponsible and unreasonable time for me to be doing that, for sure.
It's never a good time. Never a good time.
Shortly after that, I'd been participating in an open mic at a coffee shop. And I don't remember why I was kind of on that side of town or whatever, but I was maybe had just stopped to buy groceries at the store or something. And so on my on my way back to the open mic, I was like, I'm just going to stop in at Papa's and have a beer.
Mhm.
That's something I like to do. And so I went in by myself. I sat at the bar. I ordered a beer. There's a group of gentlemen sitting down at the other end there. And I don't even remember how the conversation started, but they asked me some question, whatever, like, what do you do? Kind of typical sort of thing. And so I was sharing with them, I don't even remember what all I said. So we're just talking a little bit. And the one guy kind of kept inquiring a little bit more about me and what I do. And then before too long, like we hadn't even had very much of a conversation. And I did not know these guys at all.
Yeah.
I'd never met them before. But the one guy comes down and hands me his card and he says, give me a call on Monday. There's an opportunity I want to talk to you about. Like I just left my nursing career, right, to pursue this other thing. And I was like, this is so fun.
Too right.
That's my nursing career. And now I'm being offered a job from somebody who doesn't even know me that I didn't even apply for,
Right. Yeah.
like over a 5-minute conversation. Right.
Amazing.
And then the other thing that happened. So one of the other gentlemen that was down there, maybe they'd asked me, or I just shared because I was getting ready to go to the open mic that night. I just shared that I was doing that and I was telling them about the open mic and, how much I enjoy that and whatever. And the other guys, well, it's like it's going to be my birthday on whatever date that was. And he's like, maybe you can come here and sing for my birthday. How much would you charge? I mean,
Wow.
I was like, what is happening here? Because all I did was said that I sing. They never heard me sing before. This guy never heard me sing before. And now he's offering, first time I've ever been offered to be, I've ever had an offer to be paid to sing.
Yeah.
And anyway, it was a really incredibly fun, like, I'm just going to stop off and have a random beer before I go to the open mic. And I absolutely could have said, oh, like, no, I'm not going to do that. I need to get to the open mic. I mean, not that there was really a time crunch or anything, but I don't need to spend the money,
Why would I go and
a
have
beer
a beer on my own?
Why would I go by myself?
Yeah.
Right.
I totally get you.
Like
Yeah.
all of these things. And it was like this, then I met these incredible people and, nothing major came out of that. Although I did sing for the guy's birthday and he did pay me. And actually the guy also gave me a job, but that didn't last very long. Because it wasn't really in alignment for either of us, but it was cool. It was really, really cool.
Well, imagine if life was this endless stream of really cool occurrences like that, right? The thing is that we kind of make those little situations like, oh yeah, well, you had this job that only lasted 5 minutes and yeah, you did sing for his birthday and you did get paid. But it's like, we make that insignificant because it's so few and far between. But what if that's how we lived? Right?
Oh yeah.
It's
well,
like,
and
imagine the adventure that life would be, right?
I would say that, especially in that time in my life, I had a series of experiences like that.
Yeah.
And so I know, I know that that's possible. And part of what makes that possible is believing that it's possible and allowing yourself to follow through with the little voices in your head that say to go here, do that, make that decision. Right. So the thing that we want to leave everybody here with is a way that you can begin to step into this for yourself. Right. And the very first step, and the one that I think is really, it's the first step for a reason. Because of everything that we were talking about before, where we automatically ignore these things. Right? We minimize them, we discount them, or we've done that so much that we don't even recognize that they're there.
Yeah.
So you have to get silent. You have to slow down and you have to be willing to listen.
Yeah.
And when you catch a glimpse of that, you have to be willing to pay attention.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just like you practiced ignoring it, you have to practice listening.
Yeah. It's like, you know, like I was saying with me earlier, doing my research and having that impulse to message this guy that I don't really know. It's like I was very aware in that moment that there was just this immediate reaction to just discount it because it didn't seem logical. Why would I do that? And then, you know, it was like the thing that was, that had me saying, oh no, that feels like a distraction, was the fact that I needed to get something done. I was busy. And I was in a rush. I've got limited time to get this thing done. And that just feels like a distraction. And that's what I mean. That's what we mean by slow down. It's like, give these things the credence that they deserve. It's like these things are happening for a reason and they are there for us. And they are all part of our internal guidance system. Right.
Right.
And it's allowing ourselves to slow down and not be caught up in the crash bang wallop busy bang bang of life, you know. And
absolutely.
Not be caught up in the needing to complete the do list, and just be more present with what's going on inside. You know, we need to obviously remain present with the world outside as well, but what's inside is just as, if not more, relevant.
Yeah.
Because what's coming up inside is a response to what's going on outside. So it's all part of the give and take of life, right?
Yeah. So you really have to practice listening.
Yeah.
And then step 2 is actually to follow through with the impulses.
Yeah.
Right. And it's important to say that I would recommend that you start small, right? Yeah. And it's probably what's going to show up for you first anyway. So again, it can look like, oh, I'm on my way home. Let me just stop off and have a beer. Or, you know, it's the end of my day and I could go down to the coffee shop. I mean, this is another instance for me, and have a coffee. And there are, again, all kinds of reasons that I could have talked myself out of that too. It's the end of the day. Like, why do you want to go to a coffee shop then? You know, you could make coffee here if that's what you want to do. So there are all kinds of reasons to not do that, but to just go to the coffee shop, have a coffee. If you want, go to the event, go have a beer by yourself, whatever these little things are.
Call that person that pops into your head.
Yes, call that person. Send a message to the person who you know but don't know.
Yep.
On Facebook.
I know, right?
Just follow through. And you know, we're not promising that these are all going to be surprise parties for you. But
it's like I was saying,
you never know.
It's like what I have found quite surprising when I started to do this is that as soon as I committed to following through, there's something in me that automatically let go of the expectation of the outcome, and it just became something fun to do. Like, you know, and it's just like, well, this is I'm doing this for no other reason than it's fun. It's like I don't need to justify it. I'm just doing it. That's it. Right. And to say as well, you know, when we're talking about trust, I really want to emphasize the fact that we all know in life that trust doesn't come by default. Trust is earned. Right. And that's why this needs to be practiced, and we need to develop that relationship with ourselves, and we have to follow through, because if we don't follow through, we're not earning the trust.
That's correct.
Right. It needs to be earned. It's a muscle that needs to be developed, you know, and that's what I mean by earning it. Yeah.
Yeah. So then the last thing really is, because even in practicing this, you're probably still going to come to a place where you're going to wonder if you really want to follow through with that or not.
Right.
And so step 3 really is to, when that comes up for you, to ask yourself, does this feel expansive or does it make me feel constricted? Instead of asking yourself, is it responsible for me to do this? Yeah. Or is it irresponsible for me to do this? So don't ask about whether it's responsible or not.
Or logical.
Ask, or logical, right? Ask if it feels expansive to you and follow what feels expansive.
Also, for me, where that's challenged me in the past is that it has felt expansive, but I don't know why it feels expansive. And so I've rejected it then. Even though I've been aware it feels expansive, I don't know why. So I've cut the possibility off. Again, that's so cynical. Like, I'm basing that on what I already know. What about the surprise party that's around the corner? Right? What about all the amazing things that could happen that I'm cutting off?
Yeah.
As a result of not knowing why that feels like an exciting and fun thing to do.
I mean, just cut off anything exciting and fun. That makes sense.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, right. Exactly. How ironic. How ironic.
I love that. So to kind of wrap us up here, it's likely that you're dealing with some sort of indecision or doubt in your life, that you have a fear or a feeling that you're not living up to your highest potential or fulfilling your purpose.
Yeah.
And then, like we said before, the very place that's going to lead any of us who choose to continue to follow that path is living with a life of regrets.
Yeah. Constantly procrastinating and feeling overwhelmed and never taking action and then just leading to more procrastination and not taking action, leading to regret. It's a cycle that we get stuck in. And what we're talking about in following those impulses is the way out of that.
So we'll leave you with this quote that we feel like summarizes all of this up really nicely. And that is, doubt kills more dreams than failure ever will. And that's by Susie Chasm. So let you take us out, Andy.
Thanks, Tiff. So just to let you know, guys, that we're going to be continuing this conversation in the Guardians Lounge, which is exclusive to our Follow the Calling podcast community on Facebook, where we regularly invite 2 members to join us. So if you're interested in being a part of that conversation, be sure to join the Facebook community there and watch our welcome video for further instruction. And you can find the link for the Follow the Calling Facebook community in the show notes. And if you like this episode, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. We'd be truly grateful for that. And just to say then, how does it get better than this, Tiff?
Yes.
And what else is possible? And we'll see and hear all of you guys again on the next episode of Follow the Calling.
Bye for now.
Cheers.
Thank you for showing up for yourself and exploring this space with us. We are a stand for you to follow your calling, whatever that might be.
Be sure to subscribe, and if you're interested in playing with the concepts we share on this podcast and you'd like to continue this conversation with us, we invite you to join us in the Follow the Calling podcast community on Facebook, and you can find the link for that in the show notes.